One more run. Just one more. It's only midnight. I've got plenty of time. Why is this game so addicting? Well, let's talk about it. Why it's so good, and how it takes full advantage of everything your console has to offer to make it the dream game for PS5 owners. The brilliance behind Saros starts with Housemarque's development of many amazing games over their 30 years as a game studio. To perfect their bullet hell formula and injecting that into the third-person arcadey roguelike action in Returnal in 2021. I bring up Returnal because it's arguably PS5's best game leading up to Saros, and it's integral to the foundation and evolution of the combat in Saros that Housemarque dubs as Bullet Ballet. Housemarque's a gameplay-first company. They focused on making the gameplay loop in Saros great, and built everything else around it. But what's really amazing is the combat goes hand in hand with the main character's personality that you play with. In Returnal, the main character, Celine, was an astronaut, a science nerd. She was creative, smart, learned to adapt, and totally grew herself into a badass. She focused on being nimble, avoiding damage while utilizing the resources she found to survive and try to escape the alien planet of Atropos. In Saros, the main character Arjun Devraj is a Soltari enforcer. He decides to come to the planet Carcosa. He's madly focused and aggressively driven, seeking to destroy anything that gets in his way of what he's searching for. You can totally see that in the DNA of the combat, reflected in the vast amount of offensive options at your disposal, making the moment-to-moment gameplay extremely addictive. It puts you into this smooth flow state with faster pacing than Returnal, where it constantly keeps you moving and firing. You'll be out there dodging bullets like you're in the Matrix. I mean, Arjun's already rocking a futuristic black trench coat, so just slick back his hair, slap some black shades on him, and call him Neo. But this isn't all you'll be doing. You'll also have a shield to absorb bullets, a grappling hook to sling yourself around, a parry to return the enemy's projectiles back as a murdery shockwave, a power weapon that turns your arm into a big blaster, melee beatdowns, and even a special attack you gain access to later on in the game. What's considered your defensive options in this game are just another way to convert power back into offense. All the smooth gameplay is supported by some of the most immersive feedback I've ever experienced in a video game. This is where Housemarque are true geniuses, taking the game to another level by implementing the full capability of the haptic feedback in the DualSense controller and just pumping that Tempest 3D audio through your headset. Every trigger pull, every pop of your shield, every time the enemy moves. All these things and more. You don't just see them, you're literally transported to the planet and feel it rattle you to your core. And those metal guitar soundtracks blaring in the background as you dance around the battlefield or take on a boss gets you so pumped up. Then you have the visuals. Absolutely breathtaking. There's not a photo mode in this game, but there definitely should be. So many times, my jaw just dropped, and I smashed that share button to take another screenshot. So many screenshots. Saros takes you to these wide open vistas, poisonous swamps, ornate cathedrals, and many other varied locations. My personal favorite is the biome with all these dead machines, giving off some serious Matrix vibes. And these are just the biomes in their natural form. You can then activate the Eclipse, and it drowns the biomes in this orange hue, not only changing how the biomes look, but also corrupting the enemies, making them more difficult to deal with. Without modifying anything with the difficulty, you'll certainly die, more often than not during the mini-boss or main boss fights than during normal skirmishes. But I think many gamers will find this game to be much more accessible than Returnal, because it gives you many more checkpoints in the biomes, shorter runs, permanent progression through the armor matrix, and difficulty sliders called Carcosa modifiers. I personally finished the game without touching any of these Carcosa modifiers, just to see how the base difficulty would be. I definitely died some and had to retry beating some bosses, but overall I found it to be a way more balanced difficulty curve than Returnal. Returnal was brutal, but in a good way, feeling much more like a roguelike than a roguelite. The cool thing with Saros though is you can play it like Housemarque intended, teleporting in biome by biome, using the Carcosa modifiers if you find it too hard, and upgrading Arjun in the armor matrix to come back stronger. But you can also play it exactly like Returnal if you want to, starting from the first biome and working your way through to the end without any upgrades. You can interact with the armor matrix and the buffs and debuffs and the Carcosa modifiers as much or as little as you want, giving you a lot of options on how you want to play. Personally, I want to experiment with a new playthrough by not interacting with the armor matrix at all and activating all the debuffs in the Carcosa modifiers, known as trials, to see if the game can be just as difficult or even more brutal than Returnal. What's also brutal is Arjun's personality. Like Selene in Returnal, Arjun's a severely broken person, traumatized from his childhood by his abusive father. Arjun hates his dad, but unfortunately ends up becoming exactly like him. For Selene, it was her mom, and she ended up just like her too, focusing on her career and neglecting her kid. But unlike Arjun, I think you can find some of her other qualities really endearing as you continue to unravel her bleak and lonely story. Many gamers said Selene reminded them of Ripley from the Alien franchise. Yeah, I can totally see that. For Arjun, you start out believing that he's there to find the missing people that came to the planet Carcosa before him. Really though, he's hiding the real reason he's there, to find his wife. At first you think that's pretty admirable and courageous, to come all this way and stop at nothing to rescue his wife, but there's just something boiling under the surface that you can't quite pinpoint. As you learn more about Arjun, you get to know him as the drunk, selfish, aggressive, controlling, and unfaithful person that he is, and it really makes you hate him. Even Rahul Kohli, who did the voice acting for Arjun, said he'd never be this guy's friend. Not sure if that was intended or not by Housemarque, but that was the end result for me. The story was still fantastic, with many twists and turns, things shrouded in mystery that you have to peel back like layers of an onion, and discovering just as many questions as answers by the end. Plus the lore surrounding the ancient civilization and war, the teams of people known as Echelons 1, 2, and 3 that came to the planet Carcosa before Arjun's team, Echelon 4, and how all that unravels is really cool, but it just didn't impact me quite as much as Selene's story did in Returnal. Despite the story not landing quite as well, Saros really does come together for an unforgettable experience that you don't want to miss. For many players, with Housemarque making the game more accessible, they'll find this to be the best game they can play on PS5, and the perfect reason to own one. For me, Returnal still edges out Saros, but I really hope that people who pull the trigger on this game will then be convinced to go back and try Returnal as well, because both of these games are absolutely spectacular. If you've beat Saros and Returnal, and you're still looking to scratch that itch of another smooth shooter, why don't you check out my video review of Witchfire. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.